Her boy pressed his face against a wooden fence, the sound of engines shaking his chest. On the other side, men with leather jackets and tattoos laughed, cursed, and fixed steel beasts. Everyone warned him to stay away. But what he saw that evening changed his life forever. Before we start today's story, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day. Josh was just 12, a boy with messy brown hair and a restless heart. He lived in a quiet neighborhood in rural Pennsylvania, where houses leaned tired against the weight of years. His world was small: school, homework, his mom's worn-out smile, and the constant hum of loneliness since his father had left. But right behind his backyard fence, another world existed. Every weekend, the Pagans bikers gathered at an old garage that smelled of gasoline, smoke, and freedom. To most families on the block, that place was a warning sign. Mothers pulled their kids closer when engines roared. Fathers whispered about drugs, fights, and danger. Josh's mom told him never to go near. She said those men had nothing but trouble in their veins. Yet curiosity is louder than caution in the heart of a boy. He would sneak outside, climb on an old wooden crate, and peer through the cracks in the fence. One evening he saw them, men with scars and beards, leather vests with skull patches, and laughter that rattled the night. Josh didn't see danger. He saw fire. He saw life, and he couldn't look away. The boy's fascination grew stronger each week. While his classmates traded baseball cards, Josh carried the echo of roaring engines inside him. He loved the way the men carried themselves. Shoulders squared, voices gravelly, laughter bold enough to shake the air. From his secret spot he studied them like a scientist with butterflies. He noticed the way they slapped each other on the back, the way grease stained their hands, the way they worked side by side fixing broken machines. But one thing burned deepest in his chest: the brotherhood. Josh had no brothers, no father figure, to show him how to stand tall. These men seemed like giants from another planet, stitched together by loyalty and unspoken respect. His mom worried when she saw him staring out the back door too long. "Don't you dare get ideas, Josh," she warned. "Those men are poison." He nodded but didn't listen. How could he explain that for the first time he felt less alone? That fence was no barrier. It was a doorway into a secret world, and one night, as a hammer clanged and sparks flew, Josh leaned in too far. The crate shifted beneath him. Someone noticed. A deep voice cut through the night. "Hey, kid. Have you lost something?" Josh froze. His heart thumped like a drum. Through the crack in the fence, a pair of eyes, sharp, green, and amused, locked on his. It was a biker with tattoos climbing up his arms like snakes. His beard was thick, his knuckles scarred. The boy nearly toppled off the crate. Shame burned his cheeks. He thought of his mother's warnings, the neighborhood stories, monsters behind leather. This was it. He'd been caught, but instead of anger, the biker chuckled. "Don't hide. If you're gonna spy, at least be man. Enough to stand where I can see you." The garage quieted. A few men turned, curious. Josh felt every ounce of courage leave his body. He wanted to run, but his feet wouldn't move. The green-eyed biker stepped closer, wiping his hands on a rag. "You got a name, kid?" Josh," he stammered. The man smirked, nodding. "I'm Rook." He leaned against the fence, studying him. "World looks different from this side, doesn't it?" Josh swallowed hard, his throat dry, and for the first time the fence didn't feel like protection. It felt like invitation. After that night, things changed. Josh didn't stop peeking, but now sometimes Rook would tilt his head and toss him a wink before turning back to his work. It was a silent agreement. Josh could watch, and Rook wouldn't chase him off. The boy started noticing more. He saw how the bikers argued but always ended with a laugh or a handshake. He watched them stay late, welding broken frames, patching, torn leather, sharing beer and stories like a campfire circle. They looked rough, but their bond ran deeper than the steel they rode. One rainy evening, Josh stood on his crate under a plastic tarp, refusing to miss the scene. That night, Rook did something unexpected. He walked to the fence, crouched low, and pushed something through a gap. A rag, oil-stained, warm from his hand. Josh took it, staring like it was treasure. "You keep watching, you'll learn something," Rook said softly, almost drowned by the rain. Then he went back inside. Josh clutched the rag to his chest. For a boy who had nothing of his father, that small gift felt like proof. Someone saw him, someone cared he was there. But with every secret came a risk. Josh's mother noticed the grease smudges on his hands, the faraway look in his eyes. One night, as she folded laundry, she asked, "What are you doing out there so late?" "Nothing," Josh said quickly, too quickly. She sighed. "Your dad used to disappear like that. Always chasing shadows. Don't make me lose you too." Her words pierced him, but the pull of the garage was stronger. He couldn't explain it. How that world gave him hope, how those men's laughter filled the hollow his father left behind. Then one evening, the sound of glass shattering rang from the garage. Josh peeked through the fence and froze. Two men he didn't recognize stormed inside, shouting. Chairs scraped, fists slammed. Rook stood tall, eyes blazing. It wasn't just fixing bikes anymore. It was a fight. And Josh, trembling on his crate, had no idea if he was about to see violence or something else entirely. The strangers slammed their fists on a workbench, shouting over the rumble of rain outside. Josh's pulse raced as he pressed his face tighter to the fence crack. He'd never seen the bikers like this. Shoulders squared, eyes sharp, the air thick with danger. Rook stood in the middle, a silent wall of calm. His voice cut through the chaos like gravel dragged over steel. "Not here. Not in this place." One of the strangers spat on the floor. "You Pegans think you own this block." Before fists could fly, an older biker stepped forward. His name was Diesel, grey beard, leather vest worn from decades of storms. He put a hand on Rook's shoulder, then faced the intruders. "Leave," he said simply, and to Josh's shock they did, muttering, cursing, but stepping back into the night. The garage slowly exhaled, tension slipping away. Laughter returned, quieter this time. Rook turned his head slightly, eyes flicking toward the fence as if he knew the boy had seen everything. For Josh, it wasn't the fight that left him breathless. It was the restraint, the power of men who could have destroyed, but chose control instead. The next day at school, Josh felt different. While other kids bragged about video games or complained about homework, he carried a secret inside him, one he couldn't share. He had witnessed something raw, something powerful. He'd seen men walk away from a fight, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to. That afternoon, when a bigger kid shoved him in the hallway, Josh didn't shove back. He just looked at him, calm, the way Rook had looked at those strangers. The bully laughed, but Josh didn't flinch. Later, sitting alone at lunch, Josh sketched motorcycles on the back of his notebook. He didn't care if anyone saw. For the first time, he wasn't ashamed of what he admired. That evening, when the engines roared again, Josh rushed to the fence. Rook was already waiting, leaning against the post with a smirk. "You see enough last night?" he asked. Josh nodded. "You didn't fight them," Rook chuckled. "Sometimes fighting's the easy way. Respect? That's harder." The boy swallowed, words catching in his throat. But something inside him shifted. Respect. That was the thing he'd been chasing all along. As the weeks passed, Josh and Rook's unspoken bond deepened. It wasn't friendship in the usual sense. There were no video games, no jokes about school. Instead, it was the quiet passing of lessons through the fence. One evening, Josh asked, "Why do they call you Rook, the foe?" Biker smirked. "Chess piece, move straight, no tricks." My brothers say I'm stubborn, always forward. Josh liked that. A man who never bent, never backed down. Sometimes Rook shared small stories, not about crimes or wild nights, but about the road, the storms they'd ridden through, the brothers they'd buried, the miles that tested them. Josh listened like a thirsty traveler at a well. Every word felt like water, but not everyone shared Rook's patience. One night another biker, Blade, sharp-eyed and restless, noticed Josh watching. "Kid's a spy," he growled. "His mom'll call the cops." Rook shook his head. "He's just a boy, leave him," Blade sneered. "One day that fence won't hold." Josh's heart pounded. For the first time he realized not every man in that garage welcomed him. Not every set of eyes saw him as harmless, and danger suddenly felt closer than ever. That danger arrived faster than Josh expected. One Saturday afternoon, while mowing the patchy backyard lawn, Josh heard the engines fire up louder than usual. Curious, he shut off the mower and crept to his fence. Through the crack he saw tension swirling in the garage, voices raised, hands pointing. Blade was pacing like a caged wolf. "They're coming for us tonight," Blade spat. "We can't sit around polishing chrome, we hit first." Diesel, calm as ever, shook his head. "You swing first, you don't get to choose the ending." Josh's blood chilled. This wasn't about broken bottles or loud words. This was about war. Suddenly Rook noticed him at the fence. Their eyes met, and for the first time Josh saw no smirk, no teasing light. Just worry. "Go inside, kid," Rook said firmly, voice heavy. Josh stumbled back, heart hammering, but instead of running he crouched lower, peeking through the crack again. He couldn't look away. These men weren't just neighbors anymore. They were something bigger, something that felt stitched to his chest. And whatever storm was coming for them, he wanted to know how it would end. That night, Josh couldn't sleep. He sat at his bedroom window, watching the garage glow under, buzzing lights. Shadows moved, men came and went. Engines snarled like restless animals. At midnight, headlights cut across the street. Black trucks rolled in, strangers piling out. Josh's breath caught. They weren't from the neighborhood. These were outsiders, harder faces, sharper eyes. The Pagans stepped forward, a wall of leather and steel. Rook stood in front, shoulders squared. Blade twitched at his side, hungry for violence. From his window, Josh couldn't hear every word, but he saw enough. The pointing, the threats, the push that nearly tipped everything into chaos. Then Diesel stepped forward. His voice carried deep and steady. Josh couldn't hear the words, but he saw the effect. Slowly, grudgingly, the outsiders backed toward their trucks, engines growling into the distance. Josh sagged with relief. No fists, no blood. Just fire in their eyes, simmering, held back by something stronger than rage. And in that silence, after the trucks left, Josh whispered to himself, "Respect." Because that was what held the line. Morning came, but the echoes of that night clung to Josh like shadows. He sat at the breakfast table, pushing scrambled eggs around his plate. His mom noticed. "You didn't sleep," she said softly. Josh shrugged. "Just bad dreams." But it wasn't dreams. It was the memory of headlights, of strangers' eyes sharp as knives, of the way Rook had stood his ground. Josh wanted to tell her. He wanted her to understand. But she wouldn't. To her, the bikers were just men who'd ruin her son the way his father ruined her life. That afternoon, Josh wandered to the fence again. The garage was quiet, too quiet. No laughter, no clanging of tools, just Rook, sitting. On a stool, a cigarette dangling from his fingers. "You scared last night?" Rook asked without looking up. Josh hesitated. "A little." Rook blew out smoke, eyes on the ground. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp, but don't let it own you." Josh nodded, storing the words like treasure. He didn't realize it then, but those small lessons were weaving into him thread by thread, and soon he'd need every stitch. School became harder. Teachers noticed Josh's distracted eyes, the way he scribbled motorcycles instead of notes. His friends drifted, unable to understand the weight he carried, but trouble found him anyway. One afternoon, the hallway bully cornered him again. "Still spying on those freaks at the garage?" he sneered, shoving Josh's shoulder. This time, Josh didn't back down. He remembered Rook's calm Diesel's steadiness. He stood tall, fists unclenched. "You think they're freaks," Josh said, voice steady, "but they'd stand by each other longer than you'd stand by anyone." The bully blinked, thrown off. He shoved Josh once more, but when Josh didn't flinch. The boy walked away, muttering. For the first time, Josh didn't feel small. He felt anchored. That evening he ran to the fence, eager to tell Rook what had happened, but before he could, Rook beat him to it. "You stood your ground today," Rook said, smirking. Josh froze. "How do you know?" Rook tapped his temple. "Respect leaves marks, kid. People notice when you carry it." Josh smiled, and for the first time he felt like he belonged to something greater than himself, but storms always return. Late one night, Josh woke to the sound of shouting. Not from his house, but beyond the fence. He rushed to his window and saw the garage alive with chaos. The outsiders had come back. This time, there was no talking. Engines revved, bottles smashed, fists flew. Josh's chest tightened as he pressed. To the window, his breath fogging the glass. He wanted to run outside, but fear locked his legs. He saw Rook swing, saw Blade fall, saw Diesel holding two men back at once. It was raw, brutal, unchained. Then headlights from the street flashed. Sirens. Red and blue lights painted the night. The outsiders scattered like wolves into the dark. But when the dust settled, it wasn't the outsiders who were left bleeding on the concrete. It was Rook. He clutched his side, stumbling, leather vest stained dark. Diesel held him up, shouting, "Orders." And Josh, just a boy at his window, realized how thin the line between strength and vulnerability really was. The next morning, the garage was silent. No laughter, no sparks, no engines, just a heavy stillness that sat on Josh's chest. He waited all day, staring at the fence. Finally, as the sun sank low, Diesel appeared. His grey beard looked older, his shoulders heavier. "You shouldn't be out here, kid," Diesel said gently. Is Rook okay?" Josh asked, his voice trembling. Diesel sighed. "Man's tougher than steel, but even steel bends sometimes." He placed a hand on the fence, close to where Josh's small fingers clung. "You got a good heart, boy, but this life, it's not meant for you." Josh swallowed hard. "But I feel like I belong." Diesel's eyes softened, sadness and pride tangled together. "Belonging isn't about patches on your back. It's about the choices you make when no one's watching." Josh nodded slowly, the words digging deep into him. That night, lying in bed, he stared at the ceiling, clutching the greasy rag Rook had once given him. For the first time, he feared that the fence would close forever, that the door into that world might shut before he was ready. Days passed before Josh saw Rook again. When he finally limped into the garage, a bandage wrapping his ribs, Josh nearly cried with relief. "You should see the other guy," Rook joked weakly, lowering himself onto a stool. But his eyes betrayed pain, and something else, a quiet weariness Josh had never seen before. The boy pressed closer to the fence. "I thought you were—" He couldn't finish the word. Rook gave him a small, tired smile. "Takes more than that to stop me." For a long moment they said nothing, just the sound of the night, the hum of crickets, the creak of old wood. Then Rook leaned forward, his voice lower than ever. "Listen, Josh, life's gonna throw fights at you. Some you win, some you don't. But the real fight, it's keeping your soul from turning cold." Josh swallowed hard, memorizing every syllable. That evening, as the engines roared back to life, Josh realized something. He wasn't just watching anymore. He was learning, and in ways his mother could never see, the fence wasn't keeping him out. It was shaping who he would become. Summer rolled in heavy with heat. By now, Josh's life was split in two, the quiet routines of home and the roaring pulse of the garage. But fences don't hold forever. One Saturday, while Josh leaned into his usual crack, Rook waved him over. Not a wink, not a smirk. A wave. Josh's heart slammed. He climbed down from the crate, feet trembling, and walked around the block. When he reached the garage entrance, the smell of oil and smoke hit him like a storm. The men turned, surprised. Some frowned, some laughed. Blade sneered. Told you he'd crawl in eventually. But Rook stepped forward, placing a heavy hand on Josh's shoulder. He's just a boy, my guest. Josh's knees wobbled, but when Rook guided him inside, he felt like he was stepping into a cathedral. Engines gleamed under flickering lights. The air buzzed with stories unspoken, and for the first time Josh wasn't peeking through wood. He was standing in the world he'd dreamed of. The bikers tested him in small ways. Diesel handed him a wrench and said, "Hold it steady, Blade." Tossed him a rag and muttered, "Don't drop it." Josh's hands shook, but he did everything asked. Not perfectly, not fast, but with a determination that earned quiet nods. Hours passed. The men went back to their work, laughter rising again, louder this time. Josh soaked it in, the rhythm of engines, the grease on his fingers, the weight of belonging. Later that night, Rook crouched beside him. "You got guts, kid, but guts ain't enough. You got to know when to walk away too." Josh frowned. "Like you did that night?" Rook nodded, eyes tired but proud. "Takes more strength to stand still than to swing sometimes." Josh carried those words like scripture. When he finally walked home, his mother was waiting at the door, arms crossed. She saw the grease on his hands, the light in his eyes. For a moment she wanted to scold him. But instead, her face softened, because for the first time in years, her boy looked alive. Life settled into a fragile rhythm. Josh balanced school, chores, and stolen hours at the garage. He never bragged, never boasted. The Pagans weren't a trophy to show off. They were a secret heartbeat inside him. But one evening, as he lingered by the fence, his mother stepped outside. She saw the way his eyes followed the garage, the way his hands gripped the wood. "Josh," she whispered, voice breaking, "don't go chasing ghosts. Your father chased men like that and he never came back." Her words cracked something in him. For the first time he saw her fear not as a chain, but as love. She wasn't trying to take his world away. She was trying to keep hers from collapsing again. That night, Josh sat on his bed, torn between two worlds, his mother's fragile hope and the brotherhood that made him feel whole. But when he closed his eyes, he heard Rook's voice echo. Respect leaves marks. Belonging is about choices, and Josh knew his choice was coming. The choice arrived sooner than he expected. One late summer night, headlights cut across the block again. Trucks rolled in, outsiders spilling out. Voices raised, fists clenched. This time, it wasn't just the Pegans at risk, it was the whole street. Josh stood frozen on his porch, watching. He could see Rook at the front, bandaged ribs hidden under leather. He could see Diesel steady as stone, Blade hungry for a fight. The outsiders moved closer. Tension crackled like lightning before a storm. And then Josh did something no one expected. He stepped off the porch and shouted, "Stop!" The word cracked through the night. Heads turned. The men, both sides, stared at the skinny boy with shaking knees. "You don't belong here," Josh cried, voice breaking. This is their home, and they don't need to prove anything to you." Silence. A silence so heavy it hurt. Then Diesel's deep voice followed, low and steady. "The boy's right." The outsiders hesitated. One by one they stepped back, muttering, climbing into trucks. Engines roared, fading into the distance, and Josh realized his voice, small, trembling, had carried weight. After that night, things changed. The garage wasn't just a place of engines and laughter anymore. It was a place where Josh had stood, where his words had mattered. The Pagans never called him a member. They never gave him a vest. But they nodded when they saw him, respect shining in their eyes. And for Josh, that was enough. One evening, as the sun bled orange across the sky, Rook crouched by the fence again. He pushed a small object through the gap. A keychain, steel, worn, shaped like a Rook chess piece. "Keep it," he said simply. "So you remember? Straight, no tricks. Always forward." Josh closed his hand around it, heart pounding. Years later, when life grew heavy and choices loomed, he would still carry that keychain, not as a badge of rebellion, but as a reminder of the summer he learned that respect was stronger than fists, and belonging wasn't about blood. It was about choices. And sometimes the fences we think divide us are really the doors that lead us home. If this story moved you, remember, respect, loyalty, and choices shape who we become. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss another story that speaks to the heart. Until next time, ride forward with courage.